Good morning and welcome to the Hodge Pack, sports life and everything in between. Brought to you by a lot of Lady Cattle right here on 106.9 The Country Giant. We're glad that you're with us. We are hanging out in the Potosi Live studio and all of our guests up here on our Pest Control phone line. We're glad that you're with us. A lot of stuff to cover today. Jam packed show. Josh is back. Misty will be on her way. We had a state champion on our Big Country Electric My Town segment at the bottom of this hour, and the blindsided got blindsided, and we're going to have somebody that knows a lot about those type of cases, those type of things. Corey Clements from the Anderson Clements Law Firm will be joining us this morning at 8 o'clock, so it'll be a lot of fun. But a lot of stuff to cover. Again, Josh with us this morning. Glad to have you, Josh, back and off the DLs of sorts.
It's just restricted, but I'm glad to be here. Gotta maintain some follow my doctor's orders as far as recovering from the detached retina, which is something that if y'all could avoid it. It's not been pleasant.
So that's just not knowing half the battle, but knowing half the battle is stay away from the detached retina. But you did have a big week. Twins started kindergarten.
Yes, they did. It's been busy around our place, but yeah, we're excited to be big boys now. That's what they've taken to it well. They've really enjoyed it. So it's back to school for everybody, but it's a lot of those first times that people get to celebrate. Starting kindergarten, starting high school. All those milestones.
How did Leanne handle it?
Oh, she handled it very well. She was excited about it. No tears, no problems. It was a very not that there's ever a good time to have surgery for a detached retina, but I had surgery last Wednesday, so it's been just over a week. All this going on with school starting, meet the teacher. I can't drive. I can't. I was just released to basically get out of the house today. So that's why I'm back here.
Right.
So I've been working from home and all those things going on, and it was Leanne's birthday yesterday, so it's been busy around our house, and I've been very laid up, so it's been an interesting time, but I did go on the first day of school. I just sat in the car, and got to tell the kids bye as they got out and went inside. But,
now, Misty said she played an annoying song for college.
Gosh, which led to that. We talked about that. Misty was coached up, and she apparently played it off really well. While we were dropping off the boys at school, Leanne saw Misty's post on Facebook that she had carried through and had the walk-up music for Collins. Molly thought that was hilarious. Thought it was just the best thing that she had ever heard. Laughed and laughed. And I said, "Well, Molly, I've got a song picked out for you too, right?" And then her laughter quickly turned to sheer panic. She was on the edge of tears for the remainder of the trip, begging me not to turn on the radio loud when she got out of school.
That, to me, that is, you can't laugh at it and then not experience it.
I know.
So what did y'all do?
We didn't do it because she was in a really bad way over it. But I did tell her, you can't think it's funny for this to happen to Collins, and then when I say it's going to happen to you, suddenly it's the worst thing that ever happened.
That may be a knowing it's at the battle coming up later on. We'll see. Teach your kids to laugh, but teach your kids to take it as well. Hey, Bradley, appreciate you watching us on our Facebook channel, Facebook Live, all the way from Post, Texas. But it's good. It's good to have Josh back, and again, we're praying for continued recovery and healing. Maybe you'll come back just like Corey Seager did, really, with a pop.
Come back on a roll.
Coming back on fire. So let's dive in because, again, we're getting to the point, folks, where the Hodge Pack there's so much going on with the baseball, with football starting. A lot of high schools are finishing up scrimmages. This next week. Football kickoff across the state of Texas for Friday nights. As again, Anson Tiger football will be heard here on 106.9 The Country Giant. We've got Mitch Abels, Holly head football coach and state champion coach will join us this morning. But so we literally are getting to the point where 3 hours, there's going to be so much to talk about with everything that's going on as I was talking to Coach Wardis last night at Docs, was talking to him and just how there's so much going on football, and we've been fortunate enough this summer with the Rangers, and we'll have our first Bank and Trust Texas Rangers report after our first break. But there's so much going on, so I want to dive into our Lawrence Hall headline report right away and start it off with golf. You might have saw my post again talking about our YouTube channel. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel, Hodge Pack Sports YouTube channel. Check us out. Go back and watch old episodes. Watch us live there as well if you're heading off to work or whatever you're doing and you want to see us. So, mentioned Jordan Spieth in the golf world FedEx Cup playoffs round 2. Last week, Lucas Glover won back-to-back weeks. Just a great performance. But this week, today, they are in Chicago at the BMW Championship. And Rory McIlroy and Brian Harman, the champion golfer of the year, are 5 under after round 1. And there's a slew of them at 4 under, including last year and this year's U.S. Open champion Matt Fitzpatrick and Wyndham Clark at 4 under, and then Cameron Young and Paul Tesori, friend of the show, Paul Tesori, they're at 3 under, so only 2 back. Top 30 will head to East Lake next week for the Tour Championship as golf is coming to an end. Well, not really coming to an end because we've got Ryder Cup coming up in September. So golf up and rolling, and we'll try to pay attention to see how Paul and Cameron have an 8:30 tee time. So we'll kind of see how they do today in round 2. College football preseason came out, Josh, and the top 25 are out. And I did a little looking at it, and top 25, you've got 6 leading the way, 6 SEC teams, 5 Big Ten teams, 5 Pac-12 teams, which is on its way out the door, and then you've got 4 Big 12 teams and 3 ACC teams. And I mentioned in our notes, prepared to the show, is that Florida State out of nowhere started to make this push, and there's a lot of expectations in Tallahassee for the first time, probably since Jimbo Fisher, and maybe as big of an expectation since Bobby Bowden days. But I think it's exciting to see some of these schools, again, the top 5, this AP poll: Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, and LSU. Brian Kelly, year number 2. And so, Josh, next week we'll have a little bit of a college football lineup with games with Navy and Notre Dame kicking it off in Ireland. But we're real close to start seeing, and the good thing about college football is a lot of good games that we've got coming up early. And so I'm excited to see what this college football season brings.
Oh, I'm excited about it too. It's truly the most wonderful time of the year. Not to take anything away from Christmas, but football season starting is like it's my own little personal Christmas. So we're getting ready.
And you add the icing or the gravy or whatever you want to call it. The Texas Rangers playing well and doing that. There's just so much fun around here in the big country and the state of Texas as football is rolling. And a lot of teams that are in that last year of a conference, coming into a conference, all those things. And so, really, you know what? I marked Utah. Well, they're not quite in the Big 12 yet, but so we've got a lot of good stuff. Top 25 college poll is out. This past weekend, the Basketball Hall of Fame class of 2023 were enshrined, and it was Texas Field. Dirk Nowitzki went in along with Greg Popovich, Tony Parker, all long time, obviously played for the Mavs and the coach of Spurs and Tony Parker. And then Pau Gasol and D. Wade. A total of 15 titles going into the Hall of Fame this past weekend. And congratulations to all of them. Of course, Dirk at 7 foot, changing the game as no longer big fella stay down low, big fella go out to the three-point line. He talked about his folks that made an impact on his career, from Don Nelson, of course, to Mark Cuban. Got to play with Jason Kidd, Steve Nash, a lot of great point guards. And so, congratulations to them. Of course, Pop's still coaching away, and we'll get a chance to see what he can do with another perspective in generational talent. And so we'll see what happens with William Bababa. I got that totally wrong. But I will say the Mavericks did open up. The schedule came out, and they will kick off the season with the Spurs later in October. Josh, running backs got signed. We've been talking each week. It was either a running back that was still waiting to get paid or a school joining the Big 12.
Yes.
Well, this week it was running backs got paid. Dalvin Cook got signed, more signed than paid. Dalvin Cook signs with the New York Jets at $8.6 million, and then Zeke found him a spot in New England. Goes from America's team to one of the most successful franchises in early years to date, and Zeke has found a spot, and so we'll see what kind of. They said Zeke was getting a little pushback on the weight that he had, but I don't think it was the same weight that he came back from Cabo. But I think Zeke will have a good fit and will be able to be productive. The Dalvin Cook addition to the Jets makes the Jets even more scary.
Yeah, that was a big one when I saw that, and for Zeke's case in New England, that's one of those things that New England always has a pretty good job of kind of mixing and matching backs and things like that. So I could see Zeke going into a system there where he does the short yardage and goal line stuff and does it well. So kind of has some fantasy football implications there. He might be one of those goal line scavengers that people like to draft in those mid to late rounds. But yeah, the Jets just keep getting better, and it is very interesting to see what's going on with that AFC East being
loaded.
What
could be really loaded.
Looks to be pretty healthy.
And I was listening to a radio show or something on the way in. They were talking about coaches on the hot seat. Staley out at LA with the Chargers, but Bill Belichick, what kind of year does he need to have this year, along with Bill O'Brien, maybe back at the offensive coordinator spot? Can he make Mac Jones better, and see what happens with the New England Patriots? But again, so running backs have been signed, but the big news this week was Zach Martin is now back with the Cowboys, signs 2-year, $18 million a year guaranteed, all of it guaranteed, about $36 million guaranteed. So Zach's back to help protect Dak, and so hopefully that all is a good thing.
Been working on that for a while.
Yeah, for days. And finally got signed. So congratulations. And again, don't forget the Dallas Cowboy Radio Network is right here on KLGD 106.9. You can hear tomorrow night as the Cowboys have left Oxnard and headed to Seattle, and will be heading back. The Star soon, but they will play tomorrow. We'll talk a little bit later about what should we expect. And I was listening to the ticket this morning, and the connection to preseason football. Should Dak be playing? Should quarterbacks be playing? We'll talk about that later. We'll be previewing the NFC and AFC South today. Slew of new quarterbacks in that division and all over the place. So we appreciate Lawrence Hall of Abilene being on our Lawrence Hall headline report. Tons of headlines. They'll be with us all year long as the headlines keep rolling in. What's rolling in is the Texas Rangers are still in first place. They've got another first place team coming to the Globe Life this weekend as the Milwaukee Brewers will be heading, but they got done, won another series with the Angels. We'll talk about everything, and I'm going to ask Josh, who is the team that should scare us, worry us the most when it comes to the Texas Rangers getting to the World Series? And I just hit puberty gun for that. We'll be back right after this. Morning, Phil. Morning, Mom. Appreciate y'all being here. A little shout out to commercials. What says we got some of our commercials popping up. We appreciate our sponsors, Potosi Live. Hey, those that are watching on Facebook Live, head over to PotosiLive.com where you can get your Potosi Fest tickets. They got the Band of Heathens coming up this Thursday, the 24th. Band of Heathens coming up this Thursday. And, of course, their big weekend, Potosi Fest, September 21st, 22nd, and then 23rd. Another shout out I want to give to you, maybe mom and dad, as you're driving dad over to the golf course. Meat Ranchito. I know everybody goes to some other places. Meat Ranchito is the place to go. And if you think their burritos are too big, you can't handle them, that's fine. They can make a taco for you. We want to thank Meat Ranchito being the official burrito and taco sponsor of the Hodge Pack. So head over to Meat Ranchito. They're on Buffalo Gap Road. Fantastic breakfast tacos. Tacos are smaller, which I like, because they're not as big, but they also got the big burritos as well. So go check them out they're on Buffalo Gap Road in that strip center, just kind of just past Antley. Really good stuff. So, Phil, you got a football scrimmage to do tonight, or were you anywhere last night? Feel free to chat into there. If you got questions, we'll throw this question out to you. You can text it to our text line 325. Actually, I'll get the text line here in a minute. But one of our questions for today is: should Dak? How do you feel? Should Dak play in any of the preseason games? Some starters have. There's been a number of starters. Patrick Mahomes has. Derek Carr has. A lot of the rookie quarterbacks should be, in my opinion. I think all the rookie quarterbacks should play at least a quarter or half each preseason game just to get a feel of the speed of the game, in my opinion. Was listening to this morning, it was the ticket, just talking about the connections of how the city of Seattle played into Tony Romo. Tony Romo started in a preseason game, played the whole game, had a great game in Seattle. Later on, ended up starting for Bledsoe. Of course, in that same season, they made a big push, made the playoffs. He dropped the snap on the hold, dropped the hold. A couple years later, he also got hurt in 2016 against Seattle, and that's when Dak Prescott came in. So crazy connections with Seattle, which is where the Cowboys will be tomorrow night. And again, you can tune in to KLGD 106.9 for all that stuff. All right, I got Aaron saying that seeing the best defense every day in practice. That's true. I do think it's interesting. We're coming back, going on air, is how many people are paying attention, and now the stat is how many interceptions are being thrown in preseason. I think that's crazy. But we're coming back with First Bank and Trust, Texas Ranger. Welcome back to the Hodge Pack Sports Life and everything in between. Again, right here on this Friday morning, August 18th, a week from not fantasy football. Well, I got a fantasy football draft tomorrow, along with about 2 more drafts coming up. But a week away from high school football kicking off, a couple of last scrimmages. Next Friday, it'll be for real. It'll count. All the things as non-district kick off next week. And so, but Josh, we've mentioned it. A lot of baseball still to talk about, and a lot of exciting baseball to talk about as we kick off our First Bank and Trust Texas Ranger Report. Check out First Bank and Trust. They got all your banking needs right there on Treadway, just catty corner from the Abilene Country Club, not too far from Jackson Brothers. Go see Josh or Weston, all those folks there at First Bank and Trust. They will get you taken care of with any of your banking needs. Maybe your business needs some business products as well. Go check them out at First Bank and Trust. But it is time for our First Bank and Trust Texas Ranger Report. And Josh, it's still exciting. I know it ended. It feels like every time we get to the last game of a series, we feel like we don't want to win it. But we're still in first place. The Astros are biting on the heels as we thought and knew they would. But again, they take 2 or 3 of the Angels. Seager just mowing down people. Montgomery probably, would you say, had his best start as a Ranger?
One of his best starts as
a human.
Yeah, I mean, it was probably his best start this year. You know, and so good time to be pumping on all cylinders. And you mentioned Corey Seager. I due to my eye injury, I've had a lot of downtime. I can't do much of anything other than lay around, literally. But I was running some just different things on Fangraphs. If you ever dig into that, it's for the extreme baseball nerds of baseball nerds. But
which you qualify.
Yes. But Corey Seager has missed 42 games this season. And he is 4th in WAR in the American League. And to put it into perspective of how well the Rangers are doing, one of the people that is ahead of him is Marcus Semien. The other 2 are Wander Franco and Shohei Ohtani. So like
And
to
Franco's
be.
with the Rays, it has some.
Franco has some
interesting-
issues. He might not be adding any more WAR
Right.
this maybe in the prison league,
Right.
but yet to be determined. But to just think that to miss roughly a quarter of the season's games and still be, a league leader in wins above replacement, it's just like
And bouncing back from injury in such a way that, I mean, heck, the second pitch he saw out of injury went to the seats.
yeah.
And so, but again, another highlight is the Rangers' most wins, fastest to 70. They're at 72. 72 wins now, fastest, which is the cool thing about 72. Doing that, that's the year they came to Texas. But so a lot of things going in the right direction. Heim is back. Really, we still got Young on the shelf for a little bit longer, but really starting to play well. Now, one thing I did notice, the biggest struggle that we could see is between us and the Astros. The Astros have the 27th hardest schedule remaining, and the Rangers have the 14th. And so in that means it's going to be tough, but also means that if you get through that war of attrition and get through the battle of the gauntlet of having the 14th toughest schedule remaining, it's going to prepare you like we see these districts, and we'll talk to Coach Abels in a moment. But the districts that are tough, the schedule that's tough, makes you better for the postseason.
Oh, it does, and it's kind of the tale of two seasons, so to speak. The first half of the season, it was the AL East that was just like everyone was talking about, how good the AL East is, and are they going to just run the table with all the wild cards all coming out of the AL East and all of this talk, which Tampa Bay's still hanging in there, and Toronto does have that, but Toronto's only a half game up on Seattle right now for that third wild card spot. So the American League West might be the team that puts three or not team, the division that puts three into the playoffs. Because the Mariners are kind of the don't look now. They were scuffling through the first half of the season. Now they're playing well. The Astros have definitely hit their stride. So it's going to be and we've talked about this a lot. And if you can get to this point of the season when you're playing meaningful games, that makes all the world of difference. And now to be in the lead with three games lead going into the the final stretch, it's exciting. It's something that we can look forward to, and solid chance it comes down to the wire this weekend. Like you mentioned, Milwaukee's coming to town. They're in first place in the NL Central. They're playing better lately. They have good pitching, so big matchup this weekend. And inexplicably, these last few weeks, it's like we demolish teams game 1 and game 2, and then just take game 3 off.
Well,
not the pitching for whatever reason, just the hitting.
Right. And the Mariners are heading to Minute Maid this weekend, so they could help us, in my opinion. If we do our job, they can help us a little bit as well. Of course, in the National League, the Dodgers are just on a major roll, winning 11 in a row. And so when I think about overall getting to the pennant in the American League, who is the team? If I were to ask you to rank the teams that make you nervous, and the Rangers can't be themselves as one of those that make you nervous, who are those that prevent you? Because we'll talk about it a little bit later in the NFL. In the AFC, there's thousands of teams that can win the Super Bowl in the AFC. In the NFC, there's not very many. In the NL, I think it's the Braves and the Dodgers. But in the AL, in the American League, who really should bother us? Who is the biggest threat of keeping the pennant?
The Astros are the best team, in the American League besides the Rangers. And picking between those two, I'm obviously a homer, but it's a pretty close battle. The thing with the American League that is interesting is the the Orioles are have the best record in the American League. They're playing very well, but as far as like a matchup goes, if you're in a series with them, the Rangers pitching, if everything lined up correctly, seems like it has an edge over the Orioles. And the Rays, their pitching has all been injured and they're falling back, and they've definitely cooled off, so they're not as scary as they were, but they do know how to win games. So I really do think it's the Astros. Getting being able to get some home field, in that scenario, if you were to have a playoff series, having that better record, if we were to win the division and line up with them in a playoff matchup, having more games at home than on the road would be a good thing. So,
and that's the thing that's been exciting is we've seen Section 133 become a big deal on Twitter, and that Bochy just said, man, the atmospheric globe life has actually meant something. Has become a home field energy B12 shot, if you will. Space Jam juice maybe being sold in stands.
But yeah, and it reminds you, if you think back to the 2010, 2011 seasons, with how exciting it was.
It was electrifying in that stadium.
And so, when you play good baseball and the fans start to notice it, it definitely changes, and you do have that true home field advantage, which the Rangers have not always had. Sometimes the visiting teams outdraw the Rangers, and that's I think that happens everywhere. But now we're playing good baseball, so that's not necessarily the case.
It happens but it used to be it's only really the Yankees and the Red Sox that happens to, and the occasional Astro to travel in. But anyway, the Texas Rangers in first place, 72-49, well over 500, playing good baseball. Got another 3-game homestand again with another first place team as the Brewers come into town after being taken care of by the Dodgers last night. And so the Rangers, again, fantastic. Again, that's our first Bank and Trust Texas Rangers report. Misty, how are you this morning?
I'm good.
Drop the kid off.
You mentioned blindsides. She's on my blind
I
side.
know.
I cannot see her.
So
And you dressed like Sandra Bullock today, which
I can't see her. So
well, based on
eventually
I'm
I'll
not
turn
wearing
that.
pants
Yeah.
per usual.
not wearing pants, and based on the things that we're going to hear later, I'm really excited about Corey Clemens coming in
Yes.
to talk about family law, to talk about adoption versus conservatorship and all the things.
Oh, yeah.
Literally, there's not been a show in the country that has not talked about how the blind side has literally been blindsided on both ends. And what's funny is Mrs. Toohey actually came to Abilene a few years ago and spoke.
I was there.
And so I don't know where my picture is.
My daughter, that's where Collins came from, was the movie The Blind Side.
Yeah,
so
well, you may have to change your name.
I'm like, oh,
Change your name.
And it's
all a lie.
but it is pretty comical. So Corey will be with us at 8 o'clock. So when we come back, state champion football coach trying to find a way to defend that state championship. Mitch Abels will join us after the break on our Pest Patrol phone line for our Big Country Electric My Town segment. And then again at 8 o'clock, we'll talk conservatorship. We'll learn all the ships that blindsided that ship out of nowhere. So when we come back, our Big Country Electric My Town segment, Coach Mitch Abels, right after this. You gotta go see your people at Taco.
Joshy,
Hey,
let me see what's happening under here.
it looks much better.
Yeah, can you see out of it? Like,
No.
and nothing at all.
Well, it's
Bless
just
your
blurry.
Ouch.
But
Does it hurt?
not anymore.
Yeah.
But,
Did they give you like drops, like numbing drops, or
yeah, I think
something?
like
Yeah.
2 different eye drops 4 times.
When I had my eye surgery, yeah, it was like numbing drops. And, oh,
But the hardest part is that you're supposed to make it really easy. You're supposed to look down.
yes. Well,
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah. It's hard to talk to people and not look at them.
I know.
I mean, it's like
I know. I'm like, I don't like it.
it makes me
But I know it's so bad.
look at me when I'm talking.
Can you hear me? There we go. All right, we're at commercial, so Yep. Did y'all scrimmage last night or today?
Yeah, we went to Graham last night. They been treated us a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty thinking good. We don't need to be playing with them right now. That's for sure.
Are they loaded again or just? Or I guess they haven't been loaded in a while. But
Well, they all their skill guys were sophomores last year. Now they're all seniors. They're pretty good. They'll go a few rounds this year, I bet.
I guess that's the hard part in basketball. You can go play some bigger schools and they're not hurt you as much as it can if you go play football class. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Did y'all get out healthy though?
I don't know. We're got a couple of women around today, so we'll see.
No, it's good to just get through. It's kind of like this NFL preseason. The scrimmages and preseasons are necessary evils, but it's almost like because there's not enough of. It's like we got on our page. Should Dak play any? And we've got folks saying, well, Dak plays against the best defense every day, so he probably doesn't need to go against anybody else. But you can't simulate Graham in practice, or you can't simulate these other schools in practice.
Yeah, that's what makes it tough in these small schools for sure.
And I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't want to play you. I'm sure you run into that. So, but anyway, all right, we got our last commercial, and then we'll come back.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. Welcome back to the Hodge Pack, Sports Life and everything in between. It's time for our Big Country Electric My Town segment, brought to you by Big Country Electric Cooperative, who have 3 amazing offices, Roby, Snyder, and Stanford, taking care of their members each and every day. And joining us on our Pest Patrol phone line is the head football coach and state champion coach out at Holly, Mitch Abels, familiar voice of the Hodge Pack, been on a couple times, but state champion, first time defending it next week. Mitch, we appreciate you joining us this morning. Well, you're kicking off. You've kicked off a number of years. I saw your wife post. I think you're 20-ish coaching, but it's the first time kicking off as a state champion coach. How was 2 days, and how was that different than years past? Well, it's definitely been toasty, and when hopefully with football coming, the weather starts changing and starts to feel like football season and not feel like a Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
No doubt about it.
Well, and so, Coach, it's starting off this year. Looking back, of course, I know you look and you got a state championship ring, and of course, having to replace folks, just looking at guys like Austin Cupton and Rodney Hooper and Hess Parker and Casey Shields, and as well as anybody, and I'm sure you've said it, all the points that were scored last year do not carry over to 2023. So what's it been like, the message of, hey, we went, we lost, we went, we've won. Now what do we do that we've won it? How does this year kick off and kind of look different?
We're pretty young. We got some youth that we're asking to play some spots. And, that's one of the fun and challenging things about the game of football and athletics in general in high school. When those guys leave, you got to coach up some more kids and try to get them ready to play. And, every year you go into it, it's just the chemistry of the team and the makeup of the team changes.
and talk about some of those guys that have been key players, like, Chandler Myers and Dante and some of these kids that have been good as underclassmen and roll into, juniors, but now as seniors, do they feel some kind of not pressure, but hey, how do we make sure we don't take a year off and get senioritis, but try to continue this run as seniors? Do you feel like the senior leadership, and we'll talk about getting to coach your sons in a moment, but the senior leadership continuing on, because you mentioned it, a class graduates, now it's your turn to be seniors. Are they taking that on as the leaders of the ball club?
They are, we don't have many seniors, and, that's one of the key things that our Simmons and Coach Keelan always shared with us is you're only going to be good as your senior leadership. And, we got some guys that we're expecting to come up big for us. We've got some guys that kind of stepped up a little bit as seniors this year that are trying to take leadership roles. And it's just, that's one of the things I mentioned earlier is just the makeup and the new leaders that in the locker room every year and how it changes and just the whole dynamic.
Well, and you have been there a number of years, created a respectable program across the state, 64-7 in the last 5 years. And so the expectations, it's nice to be at those spots where, we've seen teams that have had that one good group of kids and they have a good run and then it's kind of a break for a while till they come back through. But having that tradition, and one of those things that's been nice is your kids have been Bearcats for a very long time, and now you're getting to do something pretty special and have both kids opportunity to be on the varsity, opportunity to contribute. Talk about there's always pressure coaching your kids, or can be. It depends on how you take it. Talk about that a little bit, an opportunity to get to coach both your boys, King and Camden, this year.
Well, it makes it fun for sure. And, you're all, it's kind of the pressure's on all three of us sometimes. It seems like, it's being from a family that, my dad coached me all through high school and getting a chance to do it with my kids makes it even more special. But it's been fun. It's been an adventure so far. And, I get a lot of coaching when I get home from my wife, too. So it's kind of it's a fun deal, and it's adventures, but we're going to just take it one day at a time. I pray all the time for how we slow down because these kids are growing up way too fast.
Well, and, the good thing is you don't have to worry about missing and having one kid in junior high and one kid at the high school. Schedule should be a lot easier to plan now that they're both in high school.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Provide culture, my wife would go one place, I have to go to other places, they look down, they're going to the same spot.
Well, and talk about the summer. Summers have changed so much for players, for coaches. Of course, one of your former coaches, Coach Wardis, has his aired out camp. Camps have become a pretty big deal, and you had a pretty big camp tour schedule. I'm not saying it was the Garth Brooks, or George Strait music tour, but you had a pretty good tour this summer with camps and stuff. Talk about, and maybe folks that are listening that can go to these, how important it is to get that extra work in during the summer.
It's really important. The thing that we kind of tell our kids the most, and I don't think anybody ever has the participation that they need in summer, but we always tell our kids, especially with late conditioning camps that we can do this summer, is get there so you can kind of suffer together. Because that's kind of what makes a certain team into the team is when you all have to suffer a little bit together. But as far as going to camp, it's not hard to find two kids because they love the game of football and they want to go to these places. We were blessed with the opportunity to go to, we went to Texas Tech, Arlington. So we just kind of made the Texas tour. We went to Baylor was the last camp we had, and it's cool to see all those places. And when you have kids that's ready to play football at the next level, you need to go out and try to find the places they're interested in going, and definitely don't stop at the Division I level. There's Division II schools, and there's a lot of good Division III schools. We're listening to McMurray and Mark Simmons camp.
Coach Ward has said that exact same thing. He was talking about a coach that brought some kids and said, I'm glad you're telling them that because maybe it sounds like it's the truth instead of coming from us. Maybe they'll listen if it's coming from somebody else because sometimes they don't want to listen to mom or dad, don't want to listen to coach at times, and if they hear it from somebody else, it kind of reiterates that. Let's talk about this coming year. Coach Hutch is back in. Your district is one of the toughest in the state in any classification. Talk about just kind of this the district season and kind of what you're expecting. And uh, again, you mentioned the scrimmage last night, but you've got a gauntlet of a schedule pretty much every week.
Yeah, we do, no doubt. You know, when I've represented many times before, if we can make it through the pre-district schedule healthy, then I think we'll be okay. And we went to Graham last night, and we got a couple of guys that are kind of hobbled, so hopefully they can get bounced up and ready to go. But our district, I feel like our district is a lot tougher top to bottom this year. You know, I don't know Coach Hutchins real well, but I know that there's a lot of excitement and things last night. They were really good last year. You know, you got your usual guys that are good like Cisco and Obi. You know, everybody says they're not any good, and then you know that Cisco's got that condition and they're well coached and they got kids that are going to fill those spots at graduation labs and they're going to be really solid. And then you look at Anson and Colorado City, who, you know, they've got a coach that'll be back to their second year, and both places are going to be improved because we always improve when the coach is there the second year. And then the kind of question mark for me is Albany. They made a coaching change pretty late, so I don't know a whole lot about them yet. And I think Winters has some speed and they're well coached, so he definitely can't take a day off in our district.
Right. Right. Well, Coach, I know you got a busy day and want to check on those kids, and you are back at school and everything's rolling, and I'm sure you're ready to start those regular Friday nights with cooler temperatures soon. But I appreciate you taking the time and look forward to watching and see how Holly does this year. And I appreciate all that you do, and from the big FCA night that I saw that y'all had with kids, and I just appreciate the example you're giving, and look forward to see what kind of year Holly has this year.
I appreciate you having me, and it'll be a fun year, and it'll be an adventure for sure.
All right, that's Coach Mitch Abels kicking off another year next Friday night. They'll be taking on the Jim Ned Indians next Friday, kicking off their year. We appreciate him, and good luck to the Bearcats this year. When we come back, we'll open up Misty's bag, and we'll see what she's got in there. We'll be back right after this. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, man. Have a good day.
Hey, you too. We'll see you. Bye-bye. right, we're coming back. Miss it back. Welcome back to the Hodge Pack, sports live and everything in between as we're rolling through hour number 1 of the Hodge Pack right here on 106.9 The Country Giant. Hey, don't forget Potosi Live, Potosi Fest coming up. Check them out at potosilive.com and get your tickets. Band of Heathens next Thursday night as well. But it is time for
Worst dance moves ever, but I'm here for them.
I thought you were
I couldn't
Josh
see.
can't see
Josh,
them today.
that is the one perk about Josh's surgery. You did not have to watch that.
It is. Okay, so this week it comes from a listener.
Ooh.
Ooh, dun dun dun.
I care more about the email address than I actually do the question.
Yeah, okay, this one's funny. Tupac Papa.
Oh.
So,
Someone made their
Papa.
email address in 1997?
Yeah. So, yeah, this one has no numbers. You know, normally there's like 34 or whatever. We're like, are they born in 1934?
Once you two-pack it, you can go back.
I mean, I don't know. So,
I don't even know what that means.
Tupac Papa wants to know, would you rather take a ball in the face from Serena, ball in the arm from Nolan, or take a full-on tackle from Micah Parsons? This is such an interesting question to me. Like,
How far
why?
is the tennis shot?
I know. There's no details.
Yeah. So a tennis ball from
Serena.
basically probably a serve.
Oh, yeah.
A serve
in
to the face from Serena.
A pitch from Nolan.
Your
and
arm.
that hits you in the arm.
You get to pick the arm.
Yeah. What did you say?
You get to pick the arm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you get to pick the arm.
I want to
Or-
pick the pitch.
Yeah.
I want curveball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want curveball.
Or a full-on tackle from Micah Parsons.
Am I padded up, or you create the scenario what Tupac wants to do here?
I mean, I'm gonna say, because even with pads, I don't know that I want to take that hit. I mean,
I want it with
but-
pads, but what do I do? Just straight on and sternum gone.
yeah, no, I think we'll go like you're suited up.
We're-
You're
but
you're
Oklahoma
suited up.
drill with Micah
With
Parsons.
no pads.
Yeah, you're suited up. You're in the game in all of these scenarios. So, which one are you picking?
I say it's easy. I would take getting tackled. If like assuming just a normal football type play, like not some, just decleated standing there, didn't see it coming type of thing. Like
Like a blind side?
yeah, there's a lot of
what I
blindside
did there?
runs. Yeah.
You're putting Corey in a bad spot. He doesn't even have a mic yet.
Ow!
Having
I'm like,
having recently had the surgery for the detached retina, I could see a unchecked tennis ball to the face leading to another one of those. So I want to avoid that.
And what would suck is you would get like a little piece of tennis fuzz in there, like a grapefruit pulp on Seinfeld when George just keeps doing the wink. So you're taking the tackle. See, I think the tackle, because here's the deal. You might think like a golf ball, it eventually descends and hits you, and you might be okay. But Serena's serving like at 100-something miles an hour. So it's almost the equivalent of getting hit by the Nolan Ryan pitch with
But
a
it's a
different
tennis
ball.
ball. I
It
would
is a
rather
tennis
take
ball.
a tennis ball than a baseball if you had to choose between the two. But the face versus the arm, I
I
don't
think
want to get hit in
I
the face.
think there's even though you could be, I'm going to go with Josh. I think the tackle would be tough, and it would hurt. Like blindsided, you have to be like this, like you think you're throwing a football, and he blindsides you from the back, or if it's straight onto the whatever tackle. I'm taking the tackle because I'm padded. I have a better chance because I've seen kickers walk away from being roughed. I've not seen anybody really walk away. I saw what Robin Ventura got to him when Nolan Ryan gave him a noogie. And Serena, there's no way because I think it would hurt. Because you may have something. I mean, Josh.
this is a hard decision.
Well, Josh, we've got hit. It was a line drive back to my shin.
Mhm.
You've got hit back in slow pitch softball by pretty quick hits.
Yeah.
Now, it's not a 99-mile-an-hour fastball from. And honestly, if Nolan Ryan's throwing it today, I still don't want it.
No, me
I'm gonna go ahead and throw that out. Even at 60 or however old, we'll look up how old Nolan
70
Ryan.
something, yeah.
However old Nolan is now, I still don't want that pitch. So I'm gonna say tackle, and then I'm gonna follow up with something that was said this week on a show this week that I totally disagreed with. What would you do?
I'm scared of all of the above. but-
Oh, D would totally be what I would start.
yeah, exactly. But I don't know that I can take a hit from Micah Parsons. Like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I could take a fastball from Nolan. I mean, I would get injured with all three. I definitely can't have anything hitting my face.
The only thing of the two, of Nolan Ryan and Micah, they're probably going to be pretty accurate. I'm not saying Serena would not.
But no, it's gonna hit you in the face. You can't say like maybe she'll miss.
You know what I'm
it's going
saying?
to
Like-
Right, we know from Tupac Papa
Yeah.
it's gonna nail you
Because
in the
even
face.
if you just had to be like Tupac Papa or whatever and just stand there like this, because anywhere that serve hits you is going to hurt. If you had to stand and be ready from wherever that baseball comes from, it's going to hurt. And from wherever Micah Parsons comes from, it's going to
I
hurt.
know, I just don't think I can take. I
So
don't
you're
know.
taking the
I'm
baseball.
such a wuss.
Well,
but
no, the best part is,
I'm gonna take a baseball to the arm.
well, right now, the good thing about this question, one, it's probably not going to, we're probably not going to be able to set it up. Number
Probably.
two, I'm just,
Praise me.
probably not going to be able to set this up unless they catch it on the podcast. Feel free to download, subscribe, rate, review, share it with your friends. Number two, it's not going to probably happen. And two, we could actually be like keyboard warriors right now because it's not going to happen. Nolan Ryan's not going to drive up from Alvin, Texas and beat us up. Serena's not going to come drive down wherever she lives, and Micah's about to be in Seattle. So we're okay. I would take all three of them. I'm not scared to death. Bring it on.
Oh my god.
Well, I was just thinking
Get all
about,
WWE
about
on.
what leads up to it is what I would think would be the hard part for me.
Well,
Like,
after you peed your pants
Yeah,
once
well,
or twice, I'm
if-
scared of.
because I'm thinking you're standing in the batter's box in prime of his career, Nolan Ryan. If you're standing there and you just know that the ball is going to hit you, just that anticipation would be like too much.
I think what you do to make it even more scarier is you have a trash can and you hit it 3 times, and you know that's the signal like the Astros use.
it's going to be a fastball.
Fastball to the arm, not just fastball. One was fastball. The third
strike.
the
That's
third
it.
one is to the arm.
So-
and know that's coming. So
so
yes,
I don't-
I'm taking
I
on
think
all
that, like-
3. Bring them.
I think that's why I would go with the football hit because, like, if say, busted play, you're just like you end up with the ball because like that would be the only way that someone like me would ever have ended up with the ball, and just like get tackled by Micah Parsons. I think there'd at least be some adrenaline that goes with it that it was not just like, oh no, I'm about to get hit. Like where the baseball, that would be all I'd be thinking about.
I'm thinking like the whiplash of my body taking a hit
Well,
from
you could put on a cowboy
I think-
collar.
I think that I would
Cowboy
like.
collar, and you're in pads.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just think my whole
There,
body
I mean,
would like.
DeMar Hamlin walked away from dying from a hit,
You're right, but I
and was
don't feel like I
playing
would
again.
fare as well as DeMar. That's all
You
I'm
don't
saying.
think you're in an elite
Like
shape?
I'm literally cringing at the thought of this happening, which is absolutely ridiculous because
it
it's
can't.
never going to.
Tune in next week as we have Serena Williams, Nolan Ryan, and Micah Parsons in
Please call
studio.
us.
In
A
studio.
very, very
Micah
effective.
Parsons is going to take off running from down this heated hallway and tackle you. Nolan Ryan's going to throw a 99-mile-an-hour fastball to the arm, and then Serena's going to try to hit a serve down the hallway. That's a pretty good one, Tupac. Tupac. Papa.
Tupac.
Tupac.
Tupac Papa.
I mean, I went with Tupac, the way that it was spelled, but maybe it's Tupac. I don't
Well,
know.
no, the reason I say that is we had my very first preacher that was the preacher when I got saved. He was going to church at First Baptist and then went on to be the youth minister there. Brother Jimmy Griffin, one of the greatest of all time. He was preaching one day, and it was back when they thought Tupac was like Elvis, who R.I.P. died so many years ago this past week. But he's talking about how, all these people, Tupac's alive, all these people are talking about Tupac Shaker, the gangster rapper. I'll never forget Brother Jimmy saying that from the pulpit. So that's why I always think of Tupac.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
I'm sure it is Tupac, but he says Tupac shake it against the
It
rapper.
could definitely be like somebody's grandpa from West Texas and
True
said
story.
Tupac.
Yeah, or maybe.
But I'm a gangster,
or
so
they're Tupac
I'm
a day.
Tupac.
They may be Tupac a dayers. You never know.
You're right.
All right, so here's the thing that I wanted to bring up.
Step it up from the nicotine use.
Yeah,
Poor Papa.
Papa love Mama. Anyway, you can hear that on 106.9 Country Giant.
Not Tupac.
Not Tupac. Papa love Mama. But stay with me. So this
I'm
past
just gonna
week,
mix that in.
so
The
this
random
past week,
Tupac song come on.
this past week on Get Up,
right after George Strait.
straight on the 8, brought to you by Tupac. But this past week on Get Up, which is hosted by Mike Greenberg, former guest of the show, download that episode, go buy his book, got your number. Dan Orlowski, who's a former quarterback NFL analyst there, talked about, they showed this scene of the slaps. You know, there's a contest, there's a league of professional slappers. And this guy slaps everything out of him, slaps all the Tupac out of him. I mean, everything he's got out of him. And he falls down. And Dan Orlowski said he would take a slap from any of the personalities that works at ESPN, Damon Woody, Booger McFarland, Greeny probably wouldn't be much of a slap, but said all these for only $1,000 to give back to charity.
No, I'm gonna need a lot.
I wouldn't get a slap from Josh for $20,000. I don't know, maybe. I don't know.
I would definitely take a slap for $20,000.
You
I
would
could
from
do
Micah
it.
Parsons?
Well, I mean, do I get to keep the money?
Yeah, I mean, no, the money's going to charity.
Well, then no. I'm not that big into philanthropy.
You're big into it, just not my body.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm all for the give back,
Yeah.
not my body.
Yeah, I'm not giving my body.
So it kind of goes to that deal.
Yeah.
So we'll look that up. I'll maybe share it on our Facebook page or Twitter of going back to that, taking one of those for the team. Maybe that'll be the new contest at Globe Life. You get to take a Max Scherzer pitch in the arm
For charity.
I'm gonna need a lot of money though to repair my arm when it's shattered.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we've got a lawyer coming in the next segment. I bet the waiver's huge. Bet the waiver is huge. Hey, that's Mulligan's. Misty's Bag brought to you by Mulligan's Bar and Grill. Hey, go hang out there. I've heard from people. The golf course is great. Food is fantastic. Get you some steak fingers. Check out their live music coming up. A lot of stuff. Mulligan's fantastic. Hey, when we come back, we're going to kick off our 8 o'clock hour. Literally all week long. The Blind Side's been out since 2009. Michael Lohr's made some money. The Tuies sold some Taco Bell that made some money. We're going to find out why everything's been blindsided again all this week. We'll be back right after this. GD.
Oh my gosh. Okay,
good.
you'll answer the bag when we come back.
What does that mean?
You're gonna answer that question on the air.
Oh.
What would you take? Like, the pitch or whatever. Yeah. Oh, really? Okay. He's with me. I'm scared.
Yeah. The risk of damage by already
Yeah, I would just think, how the heck are you driving?
Yeah, well, yeah, I can look up while I drive. That's 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's
But,
crazy. Oh,
but-
that makes sense.
But my drive from my house to here is 24 minutes. So it's like,
Yeah,
but
Ryan, you'll have to
But
fix that camera.
my vision's
now that I'm gone.
because I can't really see out of this. I'm afraid I'm gonna like clip something off, like
Yeah.
just driving down the road. So I mean, I don't want the the liability, so to speak. Yeah, and huddle up and share a microphone is hard, so I'm just gonna. I already asked my questions over there, so I'm good.
When do you go back to work?
I don't go back on Monday.
Oh, you are.
I mean, for this, I've just been working at home. I put my computer on the bar and just stand there and look over it through this.
No, you'll need to be like up on it. Yeah, you can move it closer or whatever, but you'll want to be pretty close to it. Yeah, my daughter is literally named after this movie. My husband and I, when we were dating, we watched this all the time. And when we heard, we were like, oh, that's a cute name. We ever had a little girl, and then we have a little girl, and so we named her Holmes. And when everybody asked, I'm like, it's from the movie The Blind Side, and I'm like, it's tarnished. Like, dang it.
Your name now is just.
Tell them it's about Phil Collins.
I know, I'm
Named
like,
after Phil Collins.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to
Really
change.
love
Yeah.
In the air tonight.
Yes.
It's our song.
Yeah, it's our song. Oh my god, so funny.
Welcome back to the Hodge Pack, Sports Life and everything in between. That's a clip from the 2009 movie Blind Side. You may have watched it, you may have seen it, you may have named your kid after somebody in that movie. Who knows? But we're glad that you're with us as we kick off hour number 2 of the Hodge Pack right here on 106.9, the Country Giant. And as I'd mentioned earlier in the break and earlier on the show, is that Blind Side again, 2009 came out. Sandra Bullock ironically won her first Oscar based on this role. And it has come out that Michael Orr, the person that it is portrayed after, the great athlete that went on to be drafted by the Baltimore Ravens, played a few years, made $34 million in the league. We didn't even know about the blind side. We didn't even think about the blind side of Lawrence Taylor tackling Joe Theismann until they showed that at the beginning of the movie. But now we've got folks that are upset on both sides, calling liar this, liar that. We know what citizenship is. We've got some citizenship, but we learned about conservatorship this past week, and I didn't know really what it was. And so I thought, what do we do? How do we find out? Everybody else, and I thought all these other sports radio shows they go to when stuff happens, either they're betting, they get a betting expert, or if they get legal or medical, they get somebody in to talk about the injury. Well, there's no different than legal. There'll be legal people all throughout radio shows this past week, and I thought, you know what? I know a guy that does family law.
Good call.
And so reached out to Corey Clements, and Corey's joining us. And so first of all, look, there's a lot going on with this. Michael Orr saying, I've listened that he was on Jim Rome. And first of all, Corey, thank you for taking time this morning.
Absolutely.
Well, first, we always got to do it. What would you? Yeah, you got
Yes,
to
you gotta
ask
answer the
Misty's back
question.
first.
All right. As always, I'm going to say it depends. It depends on can I get 76-year-old Nolan Ryan and left arm. Because that's what I'm taking.
Yeah,
That's what
him
I'm
throwing it with his left arm.
taking. No, in my left.
Okay, yeah,
I don't want to damage the right arm.
No,
You know,
right, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So
and I totally
you're
agree.
taking 76.
Qualified, but I want the baseball.
There you go. Y'all both took the baseball.
Yep.
Josh and I were getting tackled by Michael Parsons. But 2009, the movie came out. $30 million to make, made over $300 million, I believe, or close to it, $309 million at the box office. It's one of those shows that a lot of people, when it comes on, it's kind of like, hey, whether it's on TBS or TNT or wherever they watch it. And Hugh Freeze, who's now the head coach at Auburn, was the real coach of Michael Orr back in the day. And we learned about CJ, the kid that grew up in Coathwaite, was the one that plays CJ. I don't know if y'all knew that.
Oh, SJ, yeah.
SJ, the kid that played SJ, grew up in Goldthwaite. And then now it all came out this week that Michael Orr feels like he's been misrepresented, mispaid, and all the things.
Blindsided.
And blindsided, literally, been blindsided. And that now that the TUI folks are saying it's a shakedown, he wants $15 million. Michael Orr made $34 million in his NFL career. But one thing I will say, if there's money owed, I don't care if he's made $100 million in the league. If there's actually true something wrong, then it needs to be addressed. The other thing is, he says the biggest things that he was frustrated about, besides money and all that, was he wasn't done. They kind of portrayed him, can't read and can't write and all that. And he's like, I had to convince my teammates I could read a playbook. I could do these things. So what's your thoughts on all this? And then I want to get Corey's professional stuff on what the difference in adoption and citizenship and all those things. What's your thoughts about everything that's come out?
The Blind Side is one of my favorite sports movies. I love to watch sports films, but this one really is one of my favorites. Obviously, my daughter is named after the Tui's daughter, Collins, and so all the things, all the feels. So when this came out, I was like, what? I can see it. I can see both sides. And obviously, we always know there's two sides to every story, and then there's the truth. And so I don't know if we'll ever really fully know the full story, but I am sad for the damage that it's causing for I don't know how you could come back from this. And they appear to have a great relationship, have done many appearances. It appears over the last however many years that they have a good family dynamic. And now I just feel like I don't know that you can come back from this. And so that to me is really sad. And we'll definitely get Corey's thoughts. But yeah, I don't know, what's right. But the whole thing just really makes me sad for the relationships that I feel like are going to have a very hard time being repaired.
Well, and for one of the things that we do know that happened is they took him in, whether it's adoptionship or conservatorship, that he like you said, he did live there. He did do those things. And on ESPN.com, it says basically this past week they've exchanged or accusing Sean and Leanne Tui of earning millions off his story, and the family accusing him of an attempt at a shakedown where the $15 million comes. And so it was based off a book by Michael Lewis. And so it's crazy. And I wonder, and this literally just came to me because of the Johnny Manziel documentary that's out. If all these things since The Last Dance, if all these things that have documentary and behind the scenes stuff has triggered some of these people to come out and talk. Because you mentioned we don't know if we'll know the truth. They're saying we only made X, we only got this. Somebody else is saying they've made more. Those are receipts that are somewhere somebody's going to be able to find. And one of the two are not right. Either the Tui's are telling the truth or Michael Orr's telling the truth. And so I don't know. So we'll figure out how soon or how long it takes to do that. But so what's your thoughts on the whole situation? And then maybe explain to our folks the difference in adoption and conservatorship.
Yeah, so my thoughts are, the truth is kind of relevant to people in my experience. Everybody believes what their truth is, and they believe that's the only side. The main difference with adoption and conservatorship, and it's different from Texas too, is we hear conservatorship, and that's like custody in Texas. So people think, well, they took custody of them. That's kind of what they said. But the type of conservatorship that they took, and like what Britney Spears was under, that type of conservatorship in Texas is called a guardianship. And that's actually reserved for people who have aged to a point where they can't take care of themselves or their finances, or people with intellectual disabilities or other disabilities that can't take care of themselves. So I think that's a big difference there, because if they had adopted him or taken custody of him, that leans more to this story of this is done out of love. With a conservatorship like this guardianship, I mean, it granted them the powers to, or well, prohibited him from making his own contracts or entering into his own binding agreements. And at the time, he was 18, but still in high school. But there's still adult adoption in both Texas and Tennessee, so they could have adopted. And this is not, if his story is true that they presented me this and it's just like an adoption. It's just called this because you're 18. Well, that's not true. There's an adult adoption available in Tennessee. They chose this specifically, and the adult adoption would have given him no control, but it would have given him the power to say contest the will and contest the estate if the Tuohy's passed away. It would have given him some kind of standing there, but with the adoption, or with the conservatorship, it gives him no rights to anything they have, and it gave them rights to everything he has.
And that's what's again, continue with ESPN.com, is that in his 14-page petition that he filed at Shelby County in Tennessee, was that Orr alleges that the Tuohy's misled him into it, like he didn't know exactly what was happening, which, as Corey mentioned, misled him into conservatorship that gave them legal authority to make business deals in his name. And of course, he alleges he saw no proceeds from the 2009 film, which again grossed over $300 million.
Well, and then talk about like his birth mom. How does it work with your birth parent whenever, I mean, obviously he was 18, but is there anything regarding his birth mom, signing off on this, allowing this to happen, or does she have no rights at this point?
So I've kind of looked at some of this stuff, and it seems to me like the birth mom joined in and agreed to
The conservatorship.
And I mean, I believe it is also going to come out that it's in there that Michael Orr at the time agreed to it, which we know. We know he said, I agreed to it, but I thought it was something else.
And do you age out of a conservatorship, or is it just indefinitely?
Yeah, I mean, that's why Britney Spears had to go time for courts to get out of hers, and really, that is why you keep reading these articles about, look, they had to do all these accountings. They were supposed to file accountings every year with the court and say what they controlled, what his assets were, all of these things. The court can waive that and say, hey, you don't have to do that. I don't think that was the case here. But that's why you have to do those accountings, because you're taking control over a person's life, and the court wants to make sure that that's not going to be abused. There's so much leeway for abuse in the guardianship or conservatorship.
Well, because you hear that a lot from people that take on kids, and then you hear these horror stories that they do it for not the right reasons. Am I wrong? I mean, that's something you hear a lot.
There's a great documentary about that called Making It a Sex Scandal in Mineola, Texas, where a foster mom from California moved to Texas. She was fostering all these kids. And the allegation on the other side, she made up a sex scandal in that town and about this kid, and she was doing it for the money. And so, yeah, no, that definitely happened.
And so, but you see all this, and you mentioned it, Missy, like at what point, one, the Netflix documentary that's probably, if anybody smart wants to do,
Yeah.
because we've seen it where you can obviously go film one, film the other, piece it together, and now you have a Netflix documentary. Is easy to do here, and then would be able to make some money off of it. I do wonder how that, because if Michael Orr says he didn't make any money off of it, I would be shocked. Because if I'm that athlete, now that's what stinks, is when you see these movies, they normally say it's based on a true story. Like there's pieces that are 100% accurate. He did go to Ole Miss. He did get drafted by the Ravens. All these things that are accurate. But then there's always the twists that make it Hollywood. And so, but in all that, you would think that he would still make the money, like get something out of it. I mean, if they ever make a movie about Hodge, I want to get something off of it.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, we talked about that a while ago when you were with Coach, and we said the same thing. Like, I'm going to be making something.
And I've seen different accounts on that. I was reading, and these are just articles I'm reading too, but I saw one that said, no, look, we each got $100,000 upfront payment for the movie rights. He didn't want his or wouldn't take his, so we deposited it in a trust for him. That was in some article. I think what he's complaining about is the royalties and the residuals. I think he's alleging that the residuals the family got, which the Tuohy's and their children were not getting.
And then the Tuohy's are like saying, well, we have $250,000 each, or it's been different on what they've
Right.
said, what they've gotten, and then a lot of it's gone back to the book. And I was heard like Michael Lewis, who wrote the book, was friends of the Tuohys, and all these things. And so it's literally become a drama about this great movie. And I put that in one of our questions. Like, Rudy is one of those, and everybody jokes that Rudy was all sides. But that's a whole nother deal. But some of these movies that you look that are based on true stories, and you just wonder how accurate they are. Like 8 Seconds. The reason I always wonder how accurate 8 Seconds was is Cody Lambert, who is one of the people in that movie portrayed. I coached this kid at Merkle, so always asking those questions of how accurate some of those movies are.
Oh yeah, I mean, again, it goes back to the Hollywood factor. We know that because they said, Michael had struggled to read and all of that. And he was like, I'm fine. Like, I know how to read. So that's Hollywood putting the spin. But I want to know, like, obviously you're in law, and this may be hard to answer, but what is your take? I mean, what is your take the law, all of your education out of it? If you're just like us, maybe a fan of the movie, the story, the feel good, what is your opinion of this? And what do you really think is going on?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, we're so divided in this country. People are going to pick one side and hate the other side. And so there's going to be people that it's Michael Orr all the way, it's the Tuohys all the way. I don't know what the truth is. It'll ultimately come out. There's probably truth somewhere in the middle, like you said. There's 3 sides to every story. I think there's some things you can find out that are fact. I think on Michael's side, yeah, they didn't adopt him, and they do put on their foundation website. They say in their speeches, they lead everyone, all of us to believe they took in this kid, they loved him like a child, and they brought him into their family.
Well, and they continue, and that's the thing. And I don't, and
all
I know,
those speaking engagements that they still
and
do,
that's what I was about
they're
to
still
say.
making tons
Well,
of money.
and that's what I was about to say. And I wonder, because in the same realm, and I know he played in the NFL, but Michael could have done the same thing. Go on a speaking tour. And maybe he did. I don't know. I just know the Tuohy lady came to Abilene, and I heard her speak. And she, at the time, was wearing her Panthers jersey or shirt because that's where Michael was playing. And so it's going to see, will the speaking engagements increase? And I think they'll probably increase in areas that are Team Tuohy and decrease in the areas where we're not going to believe your stuff anymore. You've already made your money.
Well, and I think if you're Michael, I don't know. If I'm Michael, I don't know that I want to lead with, had a terrible upbringing, or I was in a bad spot, and so they took me in. They definitely have the upper hand, the more glamorous story. Oh, we took in this kid that didn't have anywhere else to go.
But if you twist it and say, they took me in, but when I signed the paper, it was not what I was signing.
Right.
And again, give it 5 years. I don't think Netflix is going away. Within 5 years, there will be a untold or something on this whole situation. It'll literally, and they can take it and just send me royalty. The Blind Side got blindsided. Boom.
I love the untold stories that are happening.
They just did that on Kim and Kanye's divorce.
Yes.
They did one episode of her side, one on his side. That's what I want to see.
Me too.
Yeah.
I want to see, get the lawyers involved. Everyone sign off on it. Let's get this.
I want SJ's opinion, Collins. I want the whole family.
Well, and again, then you got, Sandra Bullock winning her first Oscar based off of this. She was fantastic. It's a great movie.
She is fantastic. She's really great.
She played that well. Well, Corey, I appreciate it. Again, Corey with Anderson and Clement Law Firm. Feel free, take advantage of where you're located, and if they need anything, give me a call.
Yeah, if you guys need anything, our number is 325-437-6544. We conservatorship, adoption, and guardianship.
So if you want to make sure you get it right, give Anderson and Clements a call. They'll get you taken care of. When we come back, we'll go to the NFL football so close we can smell it like rain. It's coming. It's going to be here soon. We'll be back, and we'll look at the NFC and AFC South. And should Dak be playing? We'll be back right after this.
Great job. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank y'all for having me.
Yes, that was great.
Go to the courthouse now.
Okay.
7 minutes.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Bye, Corey. Thank you so much. Yeah, see you later.
If y'all want to come on as official lawyers on the Hodge Pack, let me know. We can make that work.
Bye.
Anderson's winning Big 12 in college football reports.
That was fun. Yeah, that was a good one. So interesting.
Like, what movie?
I did read
I'm gonna
an
look
article
this
this week that SJ was quoted in. They were talking about how
I wonder
they
how
kind
the
of caught
kids feel.
him by surprise. He didn't know there was any. Which, I mean, what would you say? Oh yeah, my parents are rats.
I had to run.
You're allowed.
Thank you. So SJ is saying that he's blindsided too.
Yeah, that he didn't. That he was of the opinion that it was all it was.
Like this
Good
faith
faith.
and good standing.
Yeah,
And it might have started that way. I don't know.
I
It's kind of like how we talk off air, you know.
yeah. Well, and I'm generally of the opinion that most people,
Like have good intentions, you think,
Well-
or to start.
most like I,
You're gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. We should get
Yeah.
Josh's take right when we come back, since he wasn't on. Just get,
oh
like,
no, we don't have to revisit it,
you
but
don't want to your opinion.
well,
No, we can on the way back.
uh,
I don't think it's a negative thing, but
well, then I will.
Okay.
Just save that.
I want to know when we can.
Me too.
I was convinced. I was going to ask you that this morning.
I was hoping
I meant to ask you that, but then we got sidetracked.
I was hoping y'all were here.
Welcome back to the Hodge Pack. Again, appreciate Corey Clements of Anderson and Clements Law Firm. Be sure if you need anything, reach out to them. Go back and listen to the podcast, Apple Podcast, HodgePackSports.com. You can listen to it anywhere. Check it out, download, subscribe, rate, review. Don't forget our YouTube channel. Appreciate everybody. Go check that out. I know folks like listening as well and watching. Honestly, just go to YouTube and turn it down and then go to KLGD1069.com and get best of both worlds. Listen to the radio feed and watch it as we are on camera. Appreciate it. So, Josh, before we get into our NFL talk, we want to get your thoughts
Okay, yeah.
on the Michael Orr situation.
Yeah, because we only have 3 microphones and it's hard to share a microphone, so I stepped out. But I was thinking about this whole situation as I've read about it this week and stuff, and not to say that people are good, because people aren't good. I mean, there's depravity of man is a thing, and everyone is born into sin. So like, you got to keep that in mind. But generally, I would think it would take a just especially deprived person to have entered into this from the get-go, back in, what was it, 2004? Was that when?
I can look that up.
Well, how long
2009
ago?
was the show,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
take
so-
that a little bit earlier.
So go back and they take in Michael and set all this up. You would have to think that they were especially evil people to just be like, all right, we got this gold mine and we're going to take advantage of it. Let's get him to sign these documents so that we can take him for all he's worth. Not that is not a possibility. It is. But because even if at that time you thought, all right, this guy's got some football talent, he may make it. There could be people that come into his life that try to take advantage of that, and we want to take care of him. This is the best way we can do that. That is a possibility. If they were truly just setting it up from the beginning, they're like, this guy's a gold mine, and if we do this right, we'll be able to control his finances for the rest of his life. I have a hard time believing that is really what was going through their heads. Does that make sense?
right.
I think a lot
Right.
of character witnesses are going to be called on this lawsuit
Well-
on the behalf of the Tuohys because of that exact scenario right there. It's like, okay, if I've known them my entire life, like that'd be like me and Clay taking in Michael Orr. Y'all know us, y'all know our heart, and then it comes out, you're like, wait a minute, like that I don't think that was their intention in the beginning. If it was, I mean, if that was who they were. So I think a lot of character witnesses are going to be called to the stand
But
on
see,
this.
I think the other thing that you have to think about is when you do that, if you know, and I kind of agree with Josh, if you know that you're making that much money off of it, and you don't, if you just assume because he's an NFL player, again, I don't care, like the live people and all these people that have made this money, I've said all along, let me take them out. But like, if he's made this much money, but he's still owed that, it's different than the live. But if he's owed
No,
money
he
off,
needs to get paid, absolutely.
I mean, it's no different than the name, image, and likeness. That
Right.
We've
Right.
seen that change in college
And-
football.
And the
in college
Tuohys
sports.
were already well off before all of this, from my understanding.
And
So-
that's what leads me to the thought of, like, if you were truly doing this in a money grab, type of move, you're making a lot of assumptions that are one in a million. I mean, because even if you take the best high school players in the country right now, you take the ESPN top 300, you could look that up. Several of them won't get college scholarships, even though they're in the top 300. They'll be injured. They'll not make grades. They'll have some off the field something go on. Won't even go to college. And of those the 300, let's say 200 of them get a full ride. 5% maybe make the NFL.
I think it's less than that.
But I'm just saying, like, say, just taking rough numbers, 5% of them make it to the NFL. So,
Yeah, needle in a
And-
haystack.
and then you're going to take, on top of that, any of them having a story that's worth a book and a movie and speaking engagements and all of that go into, all this mess. I don't see why
It's not what
you're not a logical person if you think, I'm going to do this because this is going to blow up and be huge. So I give them a little benefit of the doubt just because of that, because they're just as easily, Michael Orr could have gone to Ole Miss, blown out his knee, and no one would have ever known about him ever. I mean, he could have been
Fewer than
on the
2%.
practice squad the first freshman year and never saw a snap.
Or
and
not been as good in. I mean, he probably was truly good in high school, but
well, right, and he was physically gifted and all of that. But I mean, so to make that leap that they did this as some sort of long play to control all this money that was going to come rolling in, I just don't see that being. Now they might have controlled all the money once it came rolling in, and they might should have done something different. And I'm not saying that there's no fault there, but I just don't see them entering this from the beginning just purely to be, we've got this and it's going to turn into huge money,
Yeah,
because there's just too much. There's too many chances for that not to happen. That's why it's a movie, because all those things had to fall into the right
Right,
place
the
for it to
stars
even
aligned.
make it there. So I give them a little benefit of the doubt because of that, but it's still messy, and it's just like we've talked about, the whole blind side coming back. I wonder how it got to that point. Like, why just now was he able to figure out, like, wait, this was all set up this way and I didn't know. And that makes me think there might be some nefarious plots on that side.
Yeah,
Like somebody else
absolutely.
did some digging and they thought they could make some money if I go represent this guy.
Is this a publicity stunt?
Well, I mean, Somebody-
that happens.
somebody found it out and got with him and convinced him to go with the lawsuit. So
well, the
is somebody behind that?
the bottom line is, and it's really not the bottom line. It's not it's not the because Stone Cold said so. But the truth is, there's probably some right, some wrong, and somewhere in the middle we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, and
There'll be a settlement
And Corey-
somewhere.
Corey did say this and mention that the relative truth, which I don't believe in relative truth. I think that there is right and wrong, there is true and false. But think about any argument you've ever had with a friend or a family member. You thought you were absolutely right. They thought they were absolutely right.
PJ
There was truth, and usually that's somewhere in the middle. And it might be more to one side or the other. There is right and wrong. There is true and false. but in your mind, sometimes that gets a little bit
Yeah,
misconstrued. Right.
Well, one of the things that is true is NFL is just a few weeks away. High school football kicks off next Friday night with a little bit of college football, then the big weekend the next, and then following September 7th, the NFL kicks everything off on September 7th, that Thursday night. And so in that, one of the things that happened is, again, the Dallas Cowboys, Oxnard finishing up there, heading to Seattle for a game, and then we'll be heading back and we'll play Vegas to finish the preseason. Zach Martin did sign, so that's good. And we may come back with we'll get to the NFC South and the AFC South. But your thoughts on this, on folks playing. Do you think Aaron Laughlin says Dak probably sees the best of defense during practice, so there's no reason to play preseason? Do you think the starter should play a little bit in one of these last two preseason games? Because I've heard that Dak will probably not play in any. Missed thoughts?
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm not really concerned with Dak not playing. I think some people are losing their minds about it. Like, oh, he hasn't touched, a ball the entire preseason. Well, it's preseason, folks. So my opinion is just calm down, and we're going to have him ready for when it actually matters. And so that is my thought on it. I'm not concerned. I think he's going to be fine. He'll be ready to go. And so I'm not concerned. Everybody calm down. It's just preseason.
Josh?
He's getting his reps in practice.
I respectfully disagree, because we've seen this this drama kind of play out. The evolution of the preseason, with there being more and more talk of the preseason not being as necessary and all of those things. But it wasn't that long ago that it was very common for the third preseason game for like the first half to be starters for both teams. And them getting in some game action and being ready to go. And I have not looked into it as far as like actually digging into the stats, but just on my anecdotal, mind's eye type of scenarios, think to some of the last few openers that the Cowboys have played. I think they've been pretty sloppy. Like that first game of the season, and it's not just the Cowboys. I think it's across the NFL, because there is less, there's less emphasis put on the preseason and everybody playing in those games. And like I said, that has changed within our adult lives. It's changed from. I mean, you remember that, Hodge? It used to be the third preseason game.
The
first half was all starters.
Right.
It was like real football.
Because, and don't get me wrong, one of the things that's changed, and when we come back, we'll do the AFC and NFC South, is that these joint practices have become a thing, and you get to go against somebody else. Just like we talked to Coach Abel, you eventually want to stop going against your same people.
Right.
And I agree for the most part with what Aaron Laughlin says.
Yeah, the Cowboys' defense is really good.
It is a great defense. But I also want to go against somebody else, because you just need to figure out those schemes, because the defense that you're going against knows you as well as you know the defense. And so I think you need to go against other people. And I think there's just a difference in the Fairway 500 is less than a month away. I'm going to play golf today. It's going to be different than the Fairway 500. There's pressure. It counts. And so you've got to get, even though that the preseason game doesn't count, it's different than practice.
I think they're doing it just to hold off injury.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
he hasn't played in preseason games since 2019.
That is the flip of that coin.
And he's had great success.
But he's also been injured in the regular season
but that's
as well.
what I think. I think that is why. So we have to remember that this is nothing new for Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys, of him not getting reps in preseason.
But does he need some of those in a game type setting? Especially if you know the other team has got some ones in. If the other team, if you scout, maybe you talk to Pete Carroll. Hey, Pete.
Trevor Lawrence played in that last
right.
game.
Well, Derek Carr played, threw a touchdown pass, all those things. Patrick Mahomes went in.
Yeah.
Pat played. But if I went in and say, okay, we're going to play a little bit, hey, I just want my ones to go in and play. If you know that, I think it's big.
Well, I think if you go to Sunday the 10th, is that when the 7:30 game? Is that the Cowboys opener? Or 11th, whenever it is. They play that game against the Giants, and if the offense takes the field in the first quarter and is just 3-and-out 2 or 3 times in a row, you're gonna be like, well, they're out of sync. They didn't have any practice or they didn't have any game reps together. And so I think that's the other side of that.
So they're going to get reps. Everybody is but Dak. When we come back, we'll talk about the AFC and NFC South players, literally a whole new catalog of quarterbacks right after this. Misty, did you pick the Bengals AFC North last week? Josh has the Bengals and Lions. Josh, I'm going to steal that little bit of this one.
I don't remember. Who remind me the
Bengals, Ravens, Browns, and Steelers.
Yes, I did pick the
Who
Eagles.
did you pick, Josh?
Ravens.
And yeah,
And I'm going to get us a board.
yeah. And then
Um,
I didn't. Then I picked the Vikings.
you picked the Vikings.
And
We
against
both picked the
Chelsea.
Lions.
Yeah. Yeah, but I did go with Josh with the Eagles. And then we talked some about the Browns. Yeah.
The Browns seem to be a team that's getting a lot of
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, I don't know, but
CJ.
Hey, Laylahan from Florida.
CJ told me that, like, in their neighborhood, which is just north of us, like, blew people's fences over. My dad had a friend that said, like, blew some trees over in their yard. You know, just like 80.
I'm sorry I muted that question for y'all.
I was just thinking about that
What if?
as I had to go to the bathroom. I was like,
Well, here's the deal.
and I had to lift my dress up.
But you're in the stall. You can't be seen.
No, from the side window.
There's a window in the stall.
Yeah, like when I walk into my stall, there's
There's
a
the
huge
window
window.
in
So
the
when you
stall.
turn, here's my ass out for the world to see.
I was
I
like,
just
which
thought-
building do I need to get in?
Hey, ironically, that's a Friends and a Seinfeld episode where they had the ugly naked guy across the hall.
I'm the ugly naked girl.
Well, you're not ugly. Again, congratulations, Facebook Live and YouTube. That's why you download, subscribe, rate, and review.
But I just thought as I turned to, like, get myself situated, I was like, what if somebody sees my full moon out here right now? It's not as tan as the rest of my body.
I don't think there's a building called that.
I hope not, because that would be weird.
Maybe the Alexander building. You got some binoculars.
Abort.
And a camera.
Definitely like a flashlight.
Well, welcome back to the Hodge Pack. It's time as we get ready to head into the weekend. We kind of moved our knowing is after battle so that we can kick off, so your weekend kicks off the way it should. And we'll be doing this until we get our picks started going up. But it is time for
Yeah, we're here. I'm barely making it, but I'm following doctor's orders and keeping my head down. I do have to shout out to Mira and Cheeto getting my breakfast this morning, setting me up in the right way. So I'm happy that they provided our burritos as part of their agreement to be our official burrito sponsor. So I had some burritos this morning. They were good. If you're out and about, stop by and get some tacos, burritos.
all shapes and sizes. Yeah.
There's different sizes. You choose. But to the important stuff. Y'all know that there has been a lot of push lately with distracted driving. They pass laws in different places. You can't talk on the phone when you're in a school zone. You see the stop texts, stop wrecks. All those signs and that distracted driving is a major problem that causes causes accidents and that's no joking matter at all. But I was thinking just recently, and this is not specifically an attack on any one person, but I think we need to lobby for some new distracted driving laws. And I'm not usually a pro-law type person as far as like just making laws to fix things, but I do think that there is a problem that needs to be addressed. And I don't think any mother should be allowed to drive in the car with their children.
Okay.
It is one huge just wreck waiting to happen.
So
Like infant, like car
Like,
seat.
like-
car seats especially the ones that face
so
backwards.
you're saying, Josh,
If you have
mothers
if-
do
yes.
not drive their kids.
You're not allowed to drive if you have a kid in a car seat, especially one that faces backwards.
Why is this?
Because they will full-fledged turn around and try to look at that kid to give them like their binky that they dropped or give them another goldfish to smash and get in the seats.
You don't think dads do that too?
Oh, no. My kid could cry for goldfish for 3 hours. I'm not turning around.
He's like, I am not pointing fingers. Mom!
Yeah, you pointed fingers there, Josh.
I mean,
Shots have been fired.
I mean,
I bet there's dads that do that.
I'm
too.
sure there are, but I mean, I'm thinking it's more of a mom thing. Like I have seen this, like driving down the road, mothers And I've never seen everything do. So I'm just going
Are
to
you
spell
saying
it out
Leanne
there.
does this?
Well, if she'll. I mean, I'm surprised there's even street signs left that she hasn't run over. You know, like, but
So we're still pointing fingers.
So this segment was because of Leanne.
Brought to you by Leanne Greer,
Yeah.
who turned 40
Like,
yesterday.
that's-
Congratulations.
Yes.
Birthday.
Milestones, 18 and
But
14.
they full-fledged, like, hips up out of the seat, turned around, one arm on the wheel, trying to put a pacifier in a crying kid's mouth, going down the road,
So basically,
handing out snacks. You know, like
Moms are we have superpowers.
I
That's
do
why
agree with that.
Leanne has never taken out a sign because we can do
No,
all
he
the
said
things.
signs left. That means something made up yet.
Has Leanne ever taken out a street sign?
Someone did knock a street sign down over on the way to our house, like we're on the corner, and I did not see damage on a vehicle, but I cannot confirm or deny that it was not her that ran
That
over
would be
it.
hilarious. She was like, "Nope, I wouldn't tell you either."
Why has your car not been here for 3 weeks? It was in the shop.
Yeah.
But
So
I'm
so knowing
amazed.
this
I'm
happened-
actually amazed that they have the ability to do it. Because you're right, moms do have some crazy multitasking ability that
Superpowers.
I do not think dads generally have. But I also think that moms are more persuaded by the whining, crying kid than the dad generally.
We
And
are.
so,
So were you a drive around hand back there? My parents only reached back to spank.
oh,
us.
I was gonna say, I
I
want a
definitely can see.
smacker.
I definitely
No
can
offense,
see
Mom or Dad.
Collins in the back, needing some more whatever, and you just do it like
Encouragement.
one hand on the wheel,
Yeah.
one hand back there, you're like trying to,
I really
like
think that's why Carrie
swerving
Underwood,
all over the road.
Carrie Underwood's
Yeah,
song
Jesus
"Jesus Take the
definitely
Wheel"
needs to take
Yeah.
the wheel.
was inspired by the reach around.
So,
Yeah.
so
But
I
I
need to,
usually am like slap, definitely more probably with Ethan.
What's funny is how many
Smack
times
them.
you've been with people and you say they laugh because the parent misses. Like that's the worst thing you do is start laughing.
Oh yeah. Ask Ethan.
so I think we need to form a political action committee and make it illegal for moms to drive with kids in car seats.
There you go.
You have to get a driver,
Okay,
or
we'll
just
pay
like
for my driver. That sounds
Well,
excellent.
no.
Let's
See, I've always
go
thought-
for that.
I'm only fixing the
For your household.
Yeah.
Right.
Sounds like this is a personal attack.
This is your birthday. The Leanne law is
Yes.
now in effect.
yes.
Happy birthday yesterday to Leanne. This is your new law.
But in all
Man,
seriousness,
we've been all about the
I am
Ethan
amazed
today.
at that mom's ability to do such things, but it scares me. And
That's
you know, we
actually
need
fair.
we need less distracted driving. Hodge text and drive, I'm sure, or if
That's
that's
not
just
true.
the way the text looks. Anyway,
No, I'm just-
I don't know.
I'm just not
And
here.
sometimes a Facebook post, I'm like, I need to go edit that. I'm like, I don't know what he was trying to say.
Hey, that's what your job does.
That's your job.
That's your job.
So yeah, so just be careful out there on the road and be mindful when your kid is screaming. It's probably less important than running over a street sign.
There you go. Hey, knowing is half the battle. We appreciate Josh. We're glad that Josh is here. Hopefully, the right eye continues to get better. Guys, again, next Friday, we will have Friday night football all across the state of Texas. College football is around the corner. NFL as well. Don't forget, this is the Texas A&M Aggies. And the Dallas Cowboys will be playing tomorrow right here, part of the Dallas Cowboy Radio Network. So be sure you tune in as Dallas is in Seattle, probably with no Dak, and I bet no Zach. So be with us next week. JB Cloud coming in at 10 o'clock with some great tunes, country music trivia, all the things, or country music history. Greg Austin, 2 to 3, Texas two-step, tons more. We'll see you next week with more Hodge Pack, Sports Life, and everything in between.
Oh yeah, 100%.